Welcome to the most important podcast you are listening to right now. The A Show with April Hunter and Aron Stevens.
Hi, and welcome to the A Show. I am your host, or one half of your host, April Hunter. My other host, Aron Stevens, is not here tonight. He is still on the road, but he will be back next week. If you are listening for the first time or watching for the first time, we do this every single week at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Twitch, on YouTube, and thanks to our Patreon supporters, we appreciate you so much. He will also be back next week with the NWA champion, Trevor Murdoch. So please come back and visit us and make sure you tune in. While I am talking about what's going on, hi, welcome you guys. I see you in there. I also wanted to mention there are a couple of live appearances. You can see me live in New York on the 18th of this month, September, and I will be somewhere. I'm trying to remember where that is. I'll put that out on Twitter. You can find me, April Hunter, on Twitter. And he will be live in Los Angeles on the 12th at the Wrestling Guys store. So we'll talk before then. And there you go. That's the business there. As most of you well know, this episode is going to be dedicated to Daffney, Shannon Spruill. So we're going to do our best not to make it tearful or emotional. I don't know if we're going to succeed, but we're going to try. And I have a couple of her friends on here. I couldn't mash them all in because the screen isn't big enough for all her friends. We would have needed a stadium. So long story short, how I came to know Daffney is I met her in WCW a long time ago. So I was backstage, and I'll be honest with you, the temperature back there was not exactly warm for the NWO girls. And there was this strange girl, this weird girl in a wedding dress, and she was running around, and she was super friendly, and it was a breath of fresh air. I met her, and I met Alundra Blaze, and they were two of the people that really stood out to me, and they still do. Very genuine people. And that is how I initially met Daffney. And she's one of those people that what you see is what you get kind of with her. She and I didn't really become close until I started writing a series of bipolar blogs. I was struggling with my diagnosis at the time. I was struggling with trying to get my medications right, and she read them and kind of related because she herself had struggled with bipolar disorder for a significant portion of her life, and we just kind of connected, as I did with a lot of people who read those blogs, and we had a little bit of a support network there. And she brought her biography pages to me and asked if I would help to write her story. So Daff wanted people to know her story. She wanted people to know her struggle. She wanted people to be able to learn from it and to do better than she has with it. She wanted people to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. She never really sugarcoated anything. So that's why I thought it would be a good idea to do the show and talk about mental health and have some of her friends on here. Lexie Fyfe is probably her closest friend and has been with her through pretty much all the ups and downs. And I thought it'd be best to hear her story from some of the people that have been there along the way with her. And if her parents are listening or ever get a chance to listen to this, sorry. You should know that, shit, I said I wasn't going to do this. Okay. You should know that for all the struggling, Shannon dealt with and for all the ups and downs. She left the world a better place. She helped a lot of people, and a lot of people are better off because of her. So, that's pretty much a goal that I think anybody should strive for, to be inspirational and to leave the world a better place than when we found it. So, for example, I have 2 messages here from friends and fans. The first one is from Shanti, Rashanti Roland. And it says, I became friends with Shannon in 2013 when I was visiting Tampa, and she opened her home to me during the best international sleepover ever. Last year, while I was stationed in Japan during the beginning and height of the pandemic, isolated and alone in an apartment and facing a world of uncertainty by not knowing when I'd be able to see my friends and family again after already not having seen them for the last 2 years. The first time I posted on Facebook about my struggles with anxiety and depression, Shannon was the first to reach out to me, leaving the most encouraging and uplifting voice message. I told her about what I was going through, how I felt, and how scared I was. She shared with me her struggles and gave more advice and encouragement. The next day, I checked myself into an on-base mental health clinic where I was eventually diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. That conversation will forever be something that I hold close to my heart. It has impacted and changed my life for the better. I want to share with my story because I want everyone to know the type of person Shannon was and how much we were all blessed to have such an angel in our lives. This one's from Daniel Connor. Without Daphne, we wouldn't have had the crazy Mickey James character that stalked her status, no AJ Lee, no Paige, no Ruby Soho, etc. She and China both permanently changed the game at about the same time. I was a Daphne fan from day one. I signed up for her personal fan page back in 1999 and followed her on various social media platforms all the way up to Instagram. She is my favorite female of all time in the wrestling business and seemed like such a nice person and a beautiful soul outside the ring as well. I can't say enough about how much she was truly loved and appreciated by people like me and so many others around the world. I only wish she could comprehend what she meant to all of us before it was too late. She was truly an original and a trailblazer in the wrestling business and a person worth remembering and honoring always and forever. Losing her felt more like losing a friend than a public figure of whom I was a fan. Her connection to her fans was real. I would be more than happy for you to share my words on your show. Thank you. Rest in peace, Shannon. You are loved. And he's not wrong. Shannon was, God damn it, I said I wasn't going to do this. Okay. Because if I start, everybody will start, and it'll just be a shit show. So let's try this. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Daniel's not wrong. Shannon was genuine. The connection she had with fans was genuine. She was the way you saw her outside the ring as you saw her in the ring. She was a genuine person. So what you saw is what you got. So that said, I'm going to bring on some of her friends. You guys know my former tag partner, Velvet Sky, her tag partner, Angelina Love, and Lexie Fyfe, who is a trailblazer in the business. So, hi guys. I'm sorry. I know I said I wasn't going to do it.
Okay. You don't have to apologize. It's literally just going to happen.
I'm sorry.
You got it there though. You start and we're all going to start and then we're never going to get any words out.
So there are a lot of her friends that weren't able to make it today, or obviously we couldn't fit everybody in. Tons of them, and I didn't ask the guys or a lot of her guy friends, but I asked you guys to be here. Thank you for being here. So I would love to hear your stories, how you met her, some of your fun stories. For those who don't know, I'm pretty sure everybody here knows, but Shannon chose to commit suicide. She did this through Instagram Live. I was pretty pissed off at first. I did not watch it. I was pissed off because I was afraid of copycats, and I thought that was irresponsible. And then I went back and watched it, and now I understand. And hopefully what we're striving for on this show tonight is some understanding. So she's always been one to tell her story. I think that she wanted to tell her story directly to everybody so that there was nothing convoluted or twisted or misunderstood. And I think that's why she chose to do it that way.
Yeah, I feel like just watching her Instagram live, and I would watch her lives in the past too, and she always seemed to kind of like want to keep her friends and family and her fan base kind of updated on just things going on in her life, her struggles mentally, physically, her health problems. I feel like she wanted to share her stories because if she could have helped anyone that was dealing with similar things that she was, because that's the kind of person she was. She never did anything for sympathy, like, oh, poor me, poor me. It was always to try to like encourage those that were maybe going through the same things she was. And she always said, if I could help and reach one person, then she could go to bed happy that night. Her and we spoke a lot. We kept in touch a lot. I know when I was going through my own health struggles from 2019 into 2020, God bless her, you know, she was going through her own stuff, and she constantly would reach out to me and check on me and see how I was doing and pray for me. And she was just a wonderful person. And I feel like the reason she felt the need to go on Instagram Live that night is to kind of just let everybody know where her head was truly at, instead of someone just finding her and like wondering, well, what happened to her? Like, what was she feeling like in her final moments? What was she going through? What was she dealing with? So to me, that's how it resonated with me personally, is she didn't want any, she wanted to tie up any loose ends as far as questions that people might have had, like, where was she? Why did she do it? What kind of frame of mind was she in? What were her final thoughts? What was her state of mind? And I wasn't even like, I signed on to Instagram that night. I was supposed to be somewhere else, and I signed on to Instagram, and I saw her, that she was live at the top of the screen. Something told me to click on it. I wasn't even supposed to be on Instagram, but something told me to click on it, and I clicked on it in the middle of her going through that. And I'm not sad. I don't regret seeing that, because I was grateful to have been able to see her in her final moments and try and reach out to her, as all of you guys were too. But she knew the outpouring of love her friends and her family and her fans had for her. We all would keep in touch with her on a daily, weekly basis. She knew she wasn't going through it alone, but at the final stages of her life, even though she knew we were all there for her, she was just, I feel like she was so far defeated mentally that even though she knew all of her sisters were there for her, she was just so far removed mentally from everything and everyone. And she was in so much physical and mental pain, because she suffered a lot of health problems as well, that I'm not sure if she ever like documented or did any videos on them. I think she did, but she was suffering greatly physically and mentally. And it breaks my heart when I watched her live, for her to say that she was all alone, when she was saying she was all alone, because she knew we were all there for her, but she was so far removed from like, I don't want to say logical thinking, but she was just so far gone from feeling that she felt in her head at that time that she was all alone. And that broke my heart, because there's nothing worse than feeling like you're all alone in this world. And she knew she wasn't alone though. you know?
If I can offer something in there real quick. Am I the only crazy one? Am I the only one that has bipolar disorder?
Well, you might not be the only crazy one, but you are I don't have bipolar disorder, but you know, I think we all have our things.
Yeah.
But
fair enough. We're at entertainment. Yeah. But as someone that has the same thing that she had, you can use the word feeling alone, but I think it actually means, and for me, and maybe for her too, it could mean isolated and misunderstood.
Right.
So I have stopped using the word alone, but I do sometimes I do very much feel isolated and misunderstood. And I feel like I don't want to be a burden to other people when I have my ups and downs.
Sure.
And you know how much of a burden you can be. I mean, anybody around us knows that. So rather than being blatantly aware of how much of a burden we can be, we isolate more.
Right.
So
I think it's really important for people to know if they're going through something like a struggle, you're never a burden. Like there's no way, you know what I mean? That like there's not one person that you can talk to or, you know, be able to vent to or something. And I do want to make this very, very clear, you know, Tal touched on it. I just want everybody to know that her going on Instagram and doing this, that was not an attention grab. I don't want one person thinking that this was just some kind of a thing that she was going through and like, oh, she just wanted people to pay attention to her for 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, and Tal, you saying just her feeling so like mentally and emotionally so far removed. I think that's that whole depression lies thing, right? Because I also want people to know, because so many people, because she was saying, I'm alone. Don't you guys understand I'm alone? So many people took that as, wow, she has shitty friends. Because nobody checks on her, nobody talks to her.
No, but her phone was going crazy. You could hear it.
Exactly.
Everybody was texting and calling.
And what I think what people need to understand, and I do not have bipolar, but maybe April, you can help speak on this, is that that illness lies to you, where even though you can have people texting you every day and people telling you, even when you're at your worst, how much they love you, this dark thing, just entity just overtakes you. And it's almost like at that time, it doesn't matter. People have to understand that. It's not like all of us were just like, oh, we don't care. You know, we're just like shitty friends that don't check on her. It was like, you also have to want help too. And I know for a fact that there are some people who have offered it and tried to help. And it was just like, no. And I don't know if that was like the not wanting to feel like a burden thing, but I do just want everybody to know that you're never a burden. You're never a burden. There's never not like one person that you can talk to if you need to. And honestly, I'm so thankful for Tal, because I wouldn't have known about that live if Tal didn't text me. She texted me and told me that Shannon was live and it was bad. And I actually had my phone in my hand. And I had my son too. And, you know, he was playing his video games, just a normal night. And I watched it, and I'm so thankful for that, Tal, because even, I don't know, it's hard to process that we literally were like saw her and were speaking to her in her final moments. But I'm also so grateful for that, you know, because it was almost like that was our way, even though it was a complete sheer panic way of giving her our love the last time that we could. That's literally how we were able to do it, you know. And like, I'm sure everybody else like me, like her Instagram or like her live went off and then it came back on again. When it went off for that last time, like I clung to my phone. And I literally just like stared at her little profile picture on her Instagram, waiting for that little live circle to come around her thing again, you know? And like when you don't, I just kept checking. Like I've never checked somebody's Instagram page so much in my life then I have that night, just waiting to see her come back on. And then, you know, the uncertainty and everybody's talking to each other. Like, do we know what's going on? But it's just, it's so sad to know that such a legitimate ray of sunshine, because she was, bright, big, happy smile. So happy to see everybody all the time. I think it's great that she wants to show, like, yes, you can portray this and still have this going on, and that's okay. You know, there's ways to live with that. And I hope that everything that she wanted to get out of how she was feeling and her struggles and what she was going through, I hope that can get out and helps people, because I think that would be the greatest thing for her legacy, you know, is to just be so raw and open and honest about such a deep, very personal thing, and have that be something that can help other people too.
I had a lot of conversation. You'll have to excuse my Luna cat she's basically an emotional support cat without being trained. She knows I'm upset, so she has to come up and bump on me. So just excuse her. She's very cute though. But the last several conversations that I had with Daffney, she kept saying that whole I'm lonely, I'm alone thing. And she would tell me, logically, I know I'm not alone. She was like, I know you love me, and I know I have other people that love me, and I know I have family that loves me. And she goes, but I'm just so lonely. So it's not really the fact that she really felt alone. Her illness was making her feel alone.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and I know she's talked about this too, so I'm not saying anything like behind her back, because she was so open about all her struggles. But unfortunately, Daffney also had a problem with alcohol abuse, and she had, because of these feelings of aloneness that she was having and the struggles that she was having when she, you know, went so far into the depression, she started drinking also recently. And what is alcohol? It's another depression. It's another depressant, you know, so it was taking away some of the effectiveness of some of the medication that she was on. So it was like kind of a double-edged sword there. She, you know, but Velvet, you really had it there. She was in so much pain physically and so much pain mentally that her illness was telling her that this was the only way she was going to find any relief, and that, you know, it wasn't worth going on, even though we were all telling her it was.
Yeah.
And I'm glad somebody else talk for a minute, because I got to pet my cat.
Well, I was say, like, she was seemingly doing a lot better. Because I mean, I know she talked about this on her lives as well. You know, she went back to school. She was pursuing her bachelor's degree, and she was like super elated to be pursuing that. And she also had a job where she was a caretaker. And when she spoke on that, it seemed like it brought so much love and light to her soul that she was able to help someone else. And this was probably, I want to say maybe like the end of July, where she did a live talking about those things. So when I saw them, it made me feel a lot like better, like for her. As I'm like, oh, the girl's going to school, she's getting her bachelor, she's got a great job, she's helping people, she feels like she has a purpose, she's got her dog, she's walking her dogs, like she felt like she had found a new thing in life outside of the wrestling industry, even though she loved wrestling. It seemed like she had found another chapter in her life to pursue, and there were things that were making her very happy. So that brought me a lot of peace when I watched her talk about those things. But there's the other side of things where we just talked about the many, 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 many health struggles she was dealing with physically, coupled with the bipolar and the depression. But I just, like, for me personally, like, I don't want to just touch on the sad things real quick. I just want to touch on, again, those of you guys, like fans that are watching, that you kind of only saw the wrestling side of her, but it wasn't that far off from the real Daffney, the real Shannon. The smile, the goofiness, the laughing, the joking, the love you guys would see her portraying at autograph signings and shows. That's how she really was in real life. That's the kind of person she was. And even though she was struggling deep inside, she always was smiling, always happy. And Angelina and I were very, very happy and blessed to have been able to work with her alongside of her in a storyline, a very long drawn out storyline in TNA when they brought her in as the governor. And guys, and I know Lauren, you can back me up on this. She was so freaking happy when TNA called her and asked her to be a part of the company. Like you would think that this woman just won the lottery.
And it was such a ridiculous gimmick too, right? Like she was imitating Sarah Palin, but it was like Sarah Palin, but it couldn't have been anybody else. Like she looked like her with the wig and the glasses, the accent. It was just like, you know, and she was just so happy to be doing something because wrestling really was her heart. And all of us really were her family. You know what I mean? Like we're all like one very interesting family. But she was, and you know, to be paired with us once again, it was one of those opposite kind of things, right? Like me and Velvet of all people, like why would we be involved? You know, we started wearing less makeup and clothes from Walmart and we got mugged and all this kind of stuff. But it was this super long storyline and it was so fun. Like we had Kip with us and then we had, and we actually thought that she was the governor, but Kip knew she wasn't. He was always trying to tell us. And we did so many backstage segments. Me and Tal literally went to a farm and took bumps in literal cow shit. Yes, for real. And it was just like, we were having so much fun at that time. Too. Oh, and she was too. And she was like, she was so good with that character, like just happy to be doing it and actually good doing it too. And then, you know, after that, which I'll just jump to really quick, she got to be Daffney. She got to be her Scream Queen. She got to wear the outfits that she wanted to and do that kind of like gothy, you know, WCW kind of just her character, what came out of her most naturally. And she was so happy to be doing that. And I worked her in matches too as Daffney. So we got to really work with her for years, but just being so one-on-one with her. And then Lexie, we all worked at your house. Like we all worked countless times where there would be 20 of us in Lexie's house and just all day long for 2 days. And you really get a chance to get to know other people and grow bonds there doing stuff like that. And, you know, she'd bring Shmies to the house too. It was so cute. And it was just like, it's just really weird to think that, so happy and bright on the outside, but then having this struggle within. It's hard. It's kind of just hard to piece it together because it's like so much light, but then so much dark. I don't know how.
There's a battle inside of her.
Yeah. I wanted to read something to you guys. I mentioned earlier that she asked me to write her memoirs, and we didn't get very far. But on that topic, what you just said, and I don't know if this will make people understand or help people, but this is something that she sent me. I sent them to Lexie too. She sent me voice memos. So this is from her. There's a bunch of them, but this is something that I didn't know if this would. I'll just read it. I do believe I had my first true manic episode in the beginning of 2003. So this kind of gives you an idea of how long she's been dealing with this. I think it lasted about until June. My ex-husband and I were divorcing. Rich was moving to his best friend Mark's cabin, and he was taking our 3 cats, Bonnie, Clyde, and Steve. I was staying behind and trying to figure out where I wanted to move because Atlanta had just become too painful. After learning that I probably had a mental illness, I took to researching anything and everything I could. It was obvious that bipolar disorder ran in my family as I reflected upon my childhood. I realized that I had been in a state of depression for nearly 2 years of my marriage, and then was becoming genuinely manic. It had gotten very dangerous. Rich and I had gotten engaged in April of 2000. We got married that October, and the following February, Vince McMahon bought WCW, and it folded. The only 2 girls of contract he picked up were Tori Wilson and Stacy Keibler. They had been releasing people left and right. I was gone, and I was not picked up. So I was our main source of income, and I had some savings. I don't know. I believed in Rich's new band. He was the lead guitarist and songwriter for Step Mojo, and I believed in his new band. So we invested some money in demos, and I was trying to get a job with the WWE. It just got hard. I don't know. I have nothing bad to say about Rich. He was a wonderful man, but we weren't right for each other. There are no hard feelings or anything between us, which is great. I do feel really bad that he had to live with about 2 years of deep, dark depression. I'd begun to realize that I was staying in this really depressed state for a long time. I went to see my family doctor, and he prescribed me an antidepressant. I started to take it, and I weaned myself on, and it did not work. I was still depressed. I went off of it. I tried another, and then another, and then another. After the second one, he said to me, Shannon, sometimes if antidepressants don't work, it means that you're bipolar, but you need to go see a psychiatrist because that's just not my specialty. No, that's not. No, we'll just keep trying some stuff. We did that, and each time he would emphasize his instincts telling me that I am bipolar. So here's the part that kind of gave me a kick. Rich is a very strong, independent man. He was into working out. He was very healthy. He never did drugs. He didn't drink, even though he was on the roads with bands like Pantera and Lamb of God. He just really had great morals. He also liked guns. He liked to go out to the shooting range. He collected some. He was really into it. I had taken to sleeping upstairs. We were in the in-law suite at my parents' house downstairs. I say in-law suite, but it was the basement that had been fixed up. I'd gone back to kind of sleeping upstairs in my old room. I was just so depressed I couldn't really get out of bed. Not really sleeping. I remember one night I went out, crept out to my car, and Rich had put one of his guns in my glove box because I was working a lot of independent shows. I would be driving home late at night by myself, and he wanted me to be safe. I went out and got it. And I remember I brought it back inside, and I felt the weight of it in my hand. I took out the clip and I counted the bullets. It was really nice. It was a Colt 45 Chrome. I just kind of looked at it. I didn't really hold it up to my head or to my heart. I just looked at it. And then I hid it under the bed and I tried to go back to sleep. The next day I called my father and I said, Dad, I think I need some help. I knew that type of behavior was not normal and that I probably needed to see a psychiatrist. And then I asked him if he could help me. This was early 2000s. That's how long she's been dealing with this. That's how long she's been struggling with it. She hung in there for a long, long time.
She had a great support system too. She really had so many people, sisterhood. We call it a sisterhood in wrestling. She had so many sisters in this industry that she knew loved her. She felt the love through all of us. We would always, all the time, check up on her, whether it was texting, phone calls, FaceTime, whatever the case may be. She definitely had the support system. So yeah, for those of you who might have been wondering, oh, well, where were her friends? We all were constantly there for her. Like, she knew the outpouring of love in her life was consistent. And like April said, this is 2003, that what you just read, what she was going through in 2003, and we're in 2021 now. So I mean, it's a long time to be processing and dealing with on a daily, weekly, yearly timeline, that she just, got to a point where she felt she couldn't take it anymore. I don't know if she always struggled with physical health problems, but I know the last couple of years physically have been really, really, really tough on her. And I know, like, she's talked about it on her lives, but she did, this is not news that I'm telling you guys, because you could go on her Instagram and it's documented there. She had gone through perimenopause and full-blown menopause at the age of 39 years old, which is not really common at all for a woman. She had to have a full hysterectomy. She had major problems with her thyroid, which is why she had been gaining so much weight. It was nothing that she could control. She blamed herself at first because she thought all of the weight gain was just from her not dieting and exercising. So, which is what her primary care doctor told her, that, oh, it's just diet and exercise. You're just getting big because you need to diet better, eat cleaner. and exercise. And she believed that because that's what her primary care doctor told her. He had her on the smallest amount of thyroid medicine, which wasn't doing anything. And she had a nutritionist or a dietitian that was kind of helping her, but she wasn't losing the weight. Then she had said that she branched out into functional medicine, where she had kind of more intricate tests done, blood work done. It's kind of where they scan your whole body to get to the real root of the problem. Well, they found out that she was on too small of a dosage. I think she said she was on like 0.025 milligrams of a thyroid medicine, which is like milligrams. And when she reached out to functional medicine, they put her on either 50 or 60 a day, which is what she needed to be on. So I remember talking to her, and she had said when she found out that it wasn't her fault that she was gaining all this weight, she used one word, and it resonates with me to this day. She used the word validation. Like, finally, I had validation. It wasn't my fault, she said. And she was so happy. Like, she was so relieved that the functional medicine doctors were able to get to the real root of the problem, which wasn't just, diet and exercise, like her primary care doctor was brushing it off as.
And that's all everybody wants who has an issue. They just want someone to give them an answer, someone to give them a something of what to do and how to deal and how to take care of it. And you can't just surface level this stuff. It's deep.
Yeah.
Especially thyroid. Gosh, your thyroid runs everything.
Everything. If your thyroid is off, everything is off. You guys don't you don't realize how much your thyroid controls every part of your body. So she struggled with that. She had the thyroid, the hysterectomy, and lots more physical problems too. And it just kind of coupled with the depression, the bipolar, she had lots of concussions from her time in the ring. And it just
some pretty bad bumps in TNA.
Yeah, it just all seemed to have come crashing down on her all at once, last week. So nothing she ever said, though, ever. She was never the type of person to air her grievances for attention, because she needed attention. She needed people to pay attention. That's not the type of person Shannon was at all. She just kind of wanted everyone to know, like the fans, because we, the girls, we knew what she was going through internally, because we would keep in touch with her. But she would go on her lives and talk to the fans about it. And she would get so happy when you guys the fans would join her lives. Like, you could see when I would click on her lives, she'd be like, oh my, how many of you are in here? And then, oh my gosh, this one's from Ukraine. This one's from She was so happy to connect with the fans. And share her struggles, share her ups and share her downs, just to get feedback and just to kind of communicate and put out there her struggles, to just reach one person that might be going through what she's going through, to let you guys know that you're not alone. And that's the type of person Shannon was.
And that live that she did, it frustrates me, but it also makes me a little bit, I don't want to say happy, but you know what I mean? She was we were all just giving her so much love, and she was reading it, because there was a point where she was because everybody was trying to get in touch with her. Her phone kept vibrating and falling off of however she had it set up. And she kept saying oh, y'all are saying such nice things. So in a way, it frustrates me that we didn't get through. I don't know how other way to say that, but it also, I'm just so glad that at least she knew, in that last minute, she knew, even though it but I hope that, oh God, I hope that she at least felt it,
She did. She knew.
Lexie?
I don't know. So you got all choked up, Angelina. So I automatically got choked up. So
sorry.
That's okay. What you guys are saying about her as a person is true, because
take a minute.
so many people have reached out to me this week, other wrestling family and fans, and she talked to so many people and helped so many other people with their issues, whether it was their depression or their physical issues, or their bipolar disorder, or they're, going through a divorce or going through whatever they were going through. It's like she could kind of put her own problems aside and give the best advice and and make that person feel better. I mean, I've had 3 people tell me that she's the reason that they're still here living.
Mm-hmm.
That's all she wanted, was to reach one person.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the world is a better place for her having been here. Okay, give me a second. Go, talk away.
Maybe that was her purpose. She had a certain purpose, and that was to kind of spread her angel dust around, and she fulfilled it. She fulfilled it. She managed to hang in there a little bit longer than she thought she would, even. And then she decided to check out on her own terms instead of letting various diseases take her in the most ungraceful way possible.
Yeah, and she really did. She really did, despite everything she was suffering and going through on her own. Again, I just want to read a message that she had sent me December 5th, 2019. Now, I went through a whole slew of scary health problems of my own. And she had said, she used to call me Tiz, and I'd call her Diz because I was Talia, so it was Tizalia, Daffney. It's kind of wrestling. I was Tiz and she was Diz. So she wrote to me, "My lovely Tiz, I've tried almost everything there is," talking about her health problems, because I was like, "Did you try this? Did you try this?" "I've tried almost everything there is, and unfortunately nothing has helped. I see an endocrinologist on the 16th, and he specializes in thyroid and hormone issues. Since I went into perimenopause when I was 39 and have practically no thyroid. And I'm hoping he can give me some real knowledge. Maybe then if I feel better physically, I can feel better mentally." And then she said, "As I hope you know, I love you so much. You're precious to me and are really one of a kind. It makes me smile when I see you singing along to old school rap, because I'm singing along with you. Thank you for everything endlessly." And then she sent me old pictures and she said, "You have been on my mind a lot. I had a few questions about neurofeedback. It's a treatment that I was going through. I know you're really busy, but sometimes if you have a few minutes, I'd love to chat with you." I did chat about that. And she constantly would send me messages throughout my whole sickness. "You've been on my mind a lot, so I wanted to reach out. I'd love to catch up and chat. I'm worried about you. But if you aren't feeling like talking, I understand, as I've been there. I just pray you're okay and wanted you to know I love you." And then I would respond. And then weeks later, "Hey, Tiz, just checking on you. Love you, sister." A couple of weeks later, "Hi, love, just letting you know I'm praying for you." So I'm like seeing these, and I'm just like, and I kept in touch with her during those times. But even though I was going through what I was going through, I'm like, God bless this girl. She's going through like hell and back with her own problems, but she constantly, and I know she wasn't just reaching out to me, she was doing that to all of her friends, just checking in on all of her friends, because that's the kind of person she was.
She really was an angel on earth. Like she really was, to be going through the struggles that she was going through and still just make it so much of a priority to check on other people.
Yeah. And I just want to encourage anyone, like, if you guys didn't watch TNA back in the day, or if you're a new wrestling fan, I highly recommend. These are very, very, very like silly segments and stuff like that. YouTube, TNA Daffney as the governor, and just watch the silly backstage vignettes we would do as Sarah Palin, which again, she played to the T. The look, she had the accent down. Any role that she was ever given in wrestling, she nailed it. She played it to a T. She loved this business so much. She loved all of you guys, the fans. Like, you guys made her whole life. Yeah. When you would come see her at shows, when you would purchase them from her online store, when she saw signs in the crowd that had her name on it, like she loved you guys, the fans, so much.
Yeah, I wanted to say something about when she was the governor, because this is something personal that you guys knew she loved doing it, but she was talking to me about it. Like, for a while, when she first moved down to Florida, she lived with us for about a month while she was looking for a place to stay. And then she was, she bought her townhouse and stuff. And she lived with us for a while. And it was at that time when she was going to the TNA shows and trying to get a job. And when she got the call for the governor, it was like, it was like Christmas for her, the lottery or whatever. It really was, because she talked to me about that in a personal way. Even though I'm in wrestling, she, we would also be able to talk in a non-wrestling way. She was like, oh my gosh, they want me to do this character. And like, what do you think about this? And I bought these glasses. What do you think? And like, so I got to see like the non-backstage, non-worker part of that whole process. And she really did love it. She loved all those silly vignettes and doing all of that. And then, like you said, when she got to morph into her Daffney character, like, it was really cool to be able to see her go through all of that. See, I met her. I know you met her so early, April. I met her right after she left WCW. WWE had taken over everything, and she didn't get picked up. So she was working. She just started working the indies. She was like brand spanking new, working in indie shows, and she was traveling with Malaya Hasaka. And we went down to do this all women show, and I want to say it was in, I don't know, Biloxi or something. I know it was a casino town, and I'm pretty sure that's where it was. I went down there with Jillian Hall. We traveled down. We were one of the matches. And this girl came up to me, and I didn't watch a lot of WCW back then because I was on the road all the time. I was a full-time indie wrestler, and at that period of time, we were on the road 4 or 5 days a week. I mean, it was nothing for me to only be home 1 day a week to be able to do my laundry and then hit the road again. So I didn't get to watch a lot of, and we didn't have all the DVRs and the YouTube, and I mean, you had a little bit of that, but you couldn't just save it for later, So I didn't get to see a lot of her performances at WCW. A little bit, whenever I could catch it. So I didn't know that much about her, but I said hello to Malaya, and I said hello to Brandywine, and this girl came up, and I am horrible with like impressions, so this is not going to be her at all. But this girl came up to me, and she's like, "Oh my gosh! Like, I've always wanted to meet you. You're Lexie Fyfe. I've been told all about you." And in her I mean, I use the word manic, in her manic like Daffney voice, and I was like, this girl she needs to like back off. Like, she is just a little bit
high energy, very high energy.
I'm like, yeah. And here I traveled all the way down there, and it was just. I was tired, and I had to get ready for my match, and this girl was just like, la, 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 la. I mean, it was just, and that was the first time I met her, and it just went from there, and I got to know her. I was looking. I went through 1,000 pictures yesterday. They asked me to try and pick out some pictures because they're going to do this video montage at her memorial, and they had a lot of stuff from her childhood, and they had a lot of stuff from her family, but they wanted, and they could, anything wrestling promo pictures and stuff, they had that, but they wanted pictures of like us, us and all of her other wrestling family. So I went through all the pictures that you guys have been posting, and then I helped her start her website. So I had like a ton of pictures, and like I said, she lived with us, and my daughter was only, okay, here we go again.
Okay. Take a minute. It's okay.
Come here, Luna. You need to come sit back on my lap. Yeah. Emily was only 1 at the time. And looking through the pictures last night, there's all these pictures I haven't seen yet because she gave me so many pictures at once. There's pictures of her with Emily doing little selfies with this little 1-year-old, and pictures of Emily holding schmees, and pictures. I hadn't seen these pictures, and it's a good memory, Okay.
You're good.
Happy memory, but I'm gonna cry anyways. Happy tears. So I looked at all these pictures anyways. My thing of the story was, and there's like Daffney with this person at this convention, Daffney with this person at this wrestling show and stuff like that. And I had a different relationship with her when we were, yes, that one.
Yeah, that's cute. That's Bonnie's wedding.
Yeah. I had a different relationship with Daffney. And I use Shannon and Daffney interchangeable a lot because when we were at conventions and stuff like that, she and I didn't hang out. It wasn't our thing. Our thing was going to meet at the IHOP or hanging out at our house, or she came to Christmas at my house a few times. Hanging out, let's just watch movies tonight. Like, we had that type of relationship, and I will like, I am so happy for that. I mean, I had that wrestling relationship with her too, you know, the Shine shows and the conventions. I mean, we did see each other at conventions. We just didn't hang. Like, she has all these group pictures with all of you guys, like, and there's like 5 of you hanging out, you know, like in, you know, a couple of beds in a hotel room, like just partying or whatever. Like, that wasn't my relationship with her. I think I had more of a relationship with Shannon, maybe.
Well, it means a lot. Like, we can all have a million acquaintances in wrestling, and see each other at shows and be like, hey, you know, whatever. But it means something different to have that off camera, outside of wrestling
Bond.
You're just watching Netflix and eating popcorn together on a Tuesday night thing. Like, that's real, you know, that's the real of the real.
It's when you connect past the stage name and, you know, figuring out the finish.
What I love too, and what both me and Tal posted these pictures, is Daffney always found a way to find me and Tal at conventions.
Oh, yeah.
So like every picture we have with her, she's like squeezed in between. She's so
between you guys.
She's like squeezed in between the both of us. Like, she was always so excited to like run up to our table behind us and we'd all catch up or whatever. And she always wanted to take pictures, and she just a short little thing, and just the smile all the time. I don't even know if there's like a picture. Maybe there's a couple like her hot TNA pictures in that metal chain bra where she was, but everything was just like massive smile.
Ear smile.
Massive smile.
Colin, do you have any pictures that we could show available? Aha. There we go.
Wow.
Look at that. You're like on point. Best producer ever.
Oh, there's our friend Taylor.
There's Patootie.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
Oh,
Look at her face. I love it. Oh my God.
yeah, there she is.
Love it.
Nice.
She loved wrestling so much, and she found her thing outside wrestling too, like I was saying before, with the bachelor's degree and being a caretaker, and she was so happy with that. She really was. And it just seemed like she was on the up and up, but you know, you never really know.
I don't think I don't know. I don't, how do I put this? I think it's an ironic twist that this week is National Suicide Prevention Week. So I don't think she would want that to go to waste.
Yeah.
So the silver lining in all of this is an awareness. So in a few minutes, I'm going to have my friend Jamie Mcpherson come on from the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay, because I wanted to talk about something that we're not allowed to talk about, and that's suicide. This is something we're not even allowed to talk about with our therapists. They're mandated to put us into a nut house to have us, you know, put away. And what are you going to do? Are you going to actually tell somebody, hey, this is how I feel, and then risk like losing your job, your pets aren't taken care of, your kids aren't taken care of, you're locked away for 72 hours at least, or a week, or however long it is for each state.
And then they just medicate you, right?
Yeah, it's like medication's the answer. Just here's your pills. It's like,
yeah. So this country is really a serious problem when you can't even talk about this stuff to the people who are licensed, who you should be speaking with about it, or they will have you locked up.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is National Suicide Prevention Week, but maybe we should rethink how we're handling these things. Clearly.
Definitely.
There's not enough help and resources out there. Like, you can be referred to a hotline, and which I think is great, but it's just, I feel like it goes deeper than just a hotline. And I believe on the hotline you call and it's, you know, you're anonymous, and what are they able to like maybe talk you down or calm you down? But then when you hang up that phone, you're alone again with your thoughts, and there's just not enough resources or awareness. And to just have a national like suicide week or month that it should just be a year-round thing.
It should be every day. Yeah.
It's our 10th largest killer in the United
Yeah.
States. Our 10th largest killer. 22 veterans a day die from suicide.
Yeah.
These are the people that have left their houses, their families, their comfort, and gone overseas to fight, whether, under whatever illusion or disillusion that is. They come back and can't get help. And they have the VA, and they still end up committing suicide, a lot of them. So this is a real problem. And I honestly feel that nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to die. They just don't want to live as they have been living. And
They just don't want to suffer.
They can't see a way out. So it's up to us to kind of show them, hey, here's where you can turn around. Here are your options. Here is something maybe you haven't thought of before. Like sometimes you have to reach out and talk to people because you've told yourself that same story over and over and over again, to where you don't necessarily, you're not able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe someone else can help you get there.
Yeah.
And Lexie, I know that you went through a lot with her and helped take care of a lot with her. And I just want to let you know that I feel like you've done that with a lot of people in wrestling.
Yeah.
You're everybody's wrestling mama. And I just want you to know that we all love you for
Thank you, Lexie.
for all that you've done for us and helped people in ways you probably don't even know how you helped people. It's very real, and I definitely want you to know that.
Thank you for saying that, Lauren. Angel.
It's true.
Her name you're going by this week. Yeah, that's true, Lexie. That you do.
Next time.
You go above and beyond. I was sitting in her house one time because I was staying with her, because I was having to stay with her because I had nowhere to live. So she lets me come in and stay with her. And in front of her, she has all these bags, all these socks, all these things of food, all these different things. And she's filling each bag with different things so that she could give them out to like homeless people. Like,
Oh,
so that
yeah, our homeless bags.
It's just like a Tuesday. There's no apparent reason.
I like to keep them in my car.
She's teaching Emily how to do it too. I mean, this is like seriously good parenting, and this is just how she is. This is what she does.
Yep.
And nobody knows this because she never asks for any recognition or doesn't talk about it. And
You deserve all the praise and recognition because you are a wonderful person and you have helped so many of the girls and open your home to them to come do matches and sleepovers, and just kind of like a lot of the girls that I met in wrestling, like Bonnie and I don't even know, like I met through you, Lexie, at your house, coming down, staying with you guys, doing customs. So thank you for opening your house to all of us girls and, letting us do those custom matches. I mean, I was doing them when I first broke in wrestling, and I feel like me personally, like it helped me form a lot of friendships and give me more experience in the ring. So thank you. Thank you for that experience.
Well, that's one of the things, Daffney. I mean, even when she wasn't able to wrestle anymore, she liked to come over and just hang out because it is just a fun time to be able to see everybody and like. And
well, you probably really gave her a sense of family too,
Yeah. Well,
I think you give everybody a sense of family.
With Daffney, though, like I did go through a lot with her because she had a really bad episode when she was living right near me. Thank you. She had a really bad episode when she was living near me one time, and I had to go over and I did take her to the hospital and stuff, but I did that with her because when she could be okay, I could have my Shannon back.
Yeah.
So even the last few months, like she would call me, and I'll be honest, I would see her number come up, and we had special ringtones for each other, and I would take a deep breath. I'd be like, and then I'd be like, okay, because I didn't know if I was going to get Shannon or like as calm, or if it was going to be Shannon as upset. And a lot of times she would pick up the phone and she'd be crying, but by the time we got off the phone, she'd be Shannon again. So I always got my Shannon back. It was she'd be crying and telling me, she was lonely. She was going to have to move and she was going to have to, and I'm like, it's only a transition. When you got this, I'll come up when you're ready and we'll figure out where you're going to go next. You're just going to the apartment for a little bit, like it's just a transition period. You just got to, we just got to push through this. And then she'd be okay by the time we got off the phone, and she'd be like, okay, well, how's Emily? And we get talking about normal stuff. And so I got to see, I got to have her back. And I'll be honest, like we went to see her last month. I hadn't seen her in a while because with COVID and everything shut down and not being able to travel as much, I was like, all right, I had to go to a memorial for my aunt actually. And I was like, we're going to be going through Atlanta. We're stopping by to see you. And I'm so glad because it was a good day. And Emily got to see her again. Scott got to see her again, and we got to hug on her, and it was a good day. And that was only, a few weeks ago. And so, because talking to somebody on the phone and talking to somebody in video chat is not quite as good as being able to hug their neck, So, I was so glad that we made the time to stop by there and see her, and that it was a good day. And that's a memory that that my Emily will have too. So
yeah, good.
So I have a question for you, Lexie.
Yeah.
Daffney wanted certain things. She was very clear about that on her video. She wanted her dog and cat taken care of. She's deeply concerned about that. And she wanted her brain donated to Boston University study for traumatic encephalitis. And I know that there is a fund set up that fans can donate toward in her name. And there's also a donation, you can donate to NAMI, Georgia, which is the National Association of Mental
Illness.
National
Alliance of Mental Illness. Yeah.
Thank you. I should know that. Yeah. Georgia. So NAMI, Georgia, and Boston University, you can donate to both her names. And thank you, Colin, for putting that up in the chat. I appreciate that. I'm scattered a little bit, so please forgive me. But Daffney wanted, like I said, she wanted her dog and cat taken care of, and her brain donated to Boston for the study. Tell us.
Okay. So yes,
give us a happy ending here.
Yeah, she had communicated with her family a couple years ago, actually, when she first started doing research into the CTE, the center up in Boston. And she had made her wishes known. She had already set up all the paperwork and everything. This was a couple years ago. And so, yes, that was done. It was one of the first things that I talked with her family about the next morning. We were on the phone together all night, pretty much that night. And, but the next morning I was like, this is what she wants. And they're like, we have the paperwork, and it was taken care of. Her brain got sent off, and, they're going to be able to study that. Her hair was donated. So because she used to do that, if you remember, she would let her hair grow really, really long, and then she would kind of chop it off a little bit. And so she donated to, and I can't remember if it's Locks for Love. I might not have the right one, but she used to donate her hair quite often. And so her hair was donated because she wanted that. Hazel, her puppy, is now living with her mom's next door neighbor. He lost his wife last year, and he had been thinking about getting a dog for company because he was depressed and he wasn't feeling like he wanted to, leave the house much and go for walks and stuff. And she went over there yesterday, and she called me and said that Hazel was sitting on his lap and just loving on him. And they've been going for walks every day. And so, we're still looking for Smiley. I'm gonna, if they haven't found her by Thursday when I go up there. Smiley, unfortunately, they think Smiley might have run out when emergency people were going in and out, possibly. He was an indoor-outdoor cat at her house, so maybe she did let him out. But we're not really sure. But they're looking for him. The apartment complex where she lived is being super supportive, and looking for him. And they put his litter box and stuff out in an outside location to hopefully attract him. I'm really hoping he was a very sweet cat. So I'm hoping that somebody has him and somebody will let her family know. I don't think anything bad happened, because Smiley would have like walked up to somebody going, somebody go feed me, like, so we just need to find where Smiley is. But as soon as if we find him, then he'll have a good home too. So everything that she had her wishes for has been taken care of. And with the donations, we've raised for NAMI, we've raised over $2,000 already in just the short time that it's been up. I don't get the amounts that were sent to the Boston University, because that's going straight to them. The other thing is like more like it's a PayPal fundraiser, so I can see the amounts. But I know people have donated there too, because they've been like telling me, hey, I sent what I could. So yeah, I mean, I think if we can make whatever positives we can, and make, continue making the world as bright as Daffney did. That's what we need to do. We need to continue smiling and laughing and hugging on each other and checking on each other. And I don't mean just wrestling people. I mean everybody
in general.
And if we can do that and continue her legacy, because that is really her true legacy. Yes, we all love Daffney, the wrestler, but her true legacy is really the fact that she put so much light in the world. And we need to continue that.
And I think for us too, in order to process and cope for ourselves, we all when stuff like this happens, it's like, it's so easy to be selfish, and be like, I wish she was here. I need to see her physically. But it's like, she's at the peace now. That's what I try to think about, is she's at the peace now
she strived for,
that she always wanted to feel.
Yeah.
I like to think that too.
Yeah.
She's struggled so much that I would like to think that she's at peace now.
I have to hop off here, guys, but I just wanted to read this thing that I came across today that just like, it's again resonated with me. And so it says, and I just found this by chance. I didn't go looking for it. I just came across it today.
You're not going to make us cry, are you? Please don't make us cry.
No, I mean,
you're going to make us cry, aren't you?
No. I mean, it's just kind of, it's encouraging. It's encouraging more than anything.
Okay.
It says, you are not here just to fill space or to be a background character in someone's movie. Consider this. Nothing would be the same if you did not exist. Every place you have ever been and everyone you have ever spoken to would be different without you. We are all connected and we are all affected by the decisions and even the existence of those around us. So in other words, you matter. You all matter. All of you guys matter. Even if you feel like you don't. We talked about this, Lauren and I talked about this in the Beautiful
Butterfly Effect.
Okay? It's like you're here for a reason. Like your God put you here for a reason, not to just exist and take up space. So everyone matters, guys. Everyone on this planet matters. So just don't ever think you don't matter. Don't listen to the demons in your head that tell you you're not loved or you're not good enough or whatever the case may be. Like, everybody matters. And that's just the message that I wanted to portray before I have to sign off here tonight.
Yeah, so, I think it's really important for everybody to really, truly realize you are here for a reason. You came into the world at the exact time that you came into the world for a reason, because you have things to fulfill. You have purposes to fulfill in your life. And we said this on our podcast too, is that I want everybody to know there's always, like, just remember, like, a lot of people, it's hard at night, it's dark. It's harder to reach people, it's quiet. There's always a tomorrow. There's always a tomorrow. Always. There's always a chance to start anew tomorrow. Yep. No matter what. And I really, really want people to know that, to let that sink in. There's always a tomorrow. Always a tomorrow. You can start a new tomorrow.
You all matter, all of you. All of you are loved, and all of you matter. And we encourage you. Reach out to us for anything. You know, our Twitter handle, our email, social media. Reach out to us if you're feeling down or you're feeling like you're alone. We are here for you, all of you. We are all bonded, and I'm talking to the fans. I'm talking to the people in the industry as well, but I'm talking to the fans because, like, you guys matter just as much as we do. We are all bonded together by this crazy wrestling industry. Like, wrestling is our bond. So you are a part of our wrestling family. So you, the fans, we couldn't do any of this without you. Thank you guys for just always being the awesome people that you are. And I know you guys are struggling as much as her family and her close friends are. So I just wanted to offer that, extend that out to you guys. Reach out to us if you need to.
Yeah, and just know how much you all meant to Daffney.
Yes.
Daffney Shannon, you know what I mean? Like, for real.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
The fans meant everything to her.
He loves you guys so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you guys for having me on here tonight.
Thank you.
It's an honor to have been a part of this. Thank you.
Thanks for making the time for us.
No, I would have done it a million more times. Thank you. It's great to see you, April. Great to see you, Lexie. Lauren, it's good to see you. And have a great rest of the show.
Thank you.
See you in a couple days.
See you in a couple days. Bye, Lexie.
Bye.
Bye, people. Love you guys.
Bye. So, Colin, is Jamie available to come on? What I'm going to do is bring on Jamie Mcpherson, who works the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. One of the things we'll wrap the show up with is talking a little bit about suicide and mental health and what can be done, what the signs are, and how to handle it when you are a survivor. So this is what Jamie does. So, hey, Jamie.
Can I just say how I met Jamie? I met Jamie at like a Tampa Bay Comic Con one time, like years ago.
Were we working that
Actually,
dressed up like a pirate or something. It was
actually,
like a
the
cosplay.
He's a
airport.
cosplayer, actually.
Oh, the airport.
Yes, TSA.
Airport
TSA first.
But then I saw you in your airport TSA, and then I saw you at a Comic Con dressed like a pirate, and I was like, didn't I see you? Are you
Dressed like a pirate? Okay.
Yeah,
he's
or something like that. You were doing cosplay. Yeah.
Yep. So thanks for joining us, Jamie. I know you know the entire situation, and since this is your area of expertise, working at the Crisis Center, we were wondering if you had any advice for people who are feeling isolated more than alone, I think is the word. Feeling like they're a burden. Any advice for the people who are left behind? Do Crisis Center and call lines actually work? Like, how does all this work?
Well, if it's okay, before I answer that, I want to say first, thank you for having me here. And I want to thank you ladies for sharing. It takes a lot of courage to speak out about things that are gut-wrenching and tearing up. You can tell how much love there was for Shannon from each of you. Each of you had your own personal connections, but it was great to hear all the stories about the type of person Shannon was and how she gave back. I've got some more I can share with you too, Lauren.
I knew I had older pictures with her.
But I just want to say thank you for that, because that's a part of it. Ladies, each of you made some great points during your discussion of things that I really wanted to chime in each time you said something to add to it. But it all starts with one of the things that you said, April, was about being able to talk about it. It's been taboo. People have the misconception or the stigma surrounding it that if you talk about it, you're actually encouraging somebody to perform suicide. And that's not the case, because you hit the nail on the head. It comes down to isolation. Being isolated, and if your closest friends don't check on you to actually ask those questions, you feel more isolated. You can be in a room full of people and feel alone because of that isolation. There are many different factors around it, but the biggest thing that helps is connectivity. Lexie, you were part of her support systems, to the point that when she was having a bad time, when things were going wrong, you were part of her safety plan, making that call to you and talking to you, and how things changed by the end of the call. That was part of her safety plan and going with it. So talking to suicidal callers, they're not always on the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. We answer that, but that's not always the case. It could be in any conversation in person. It could be on any type of phone call. You listen to what the person you're saying, you're having that conversation, and you hear those invitations. I'm not somebody that gives advice. April, technically, I'm not really trained to give advice,
Okay.
but we can explain options.
Okay.
Because
then.
the thing is, with each individual, it's the individual. An option for you might not be an option for Lauren. Something that would help you safety plan would not be something that Lexie would do. Even when you're doing your own struggles, sometimes people say, hey, why don't you listen to certain type of music to help calm you? Or why don't you write and log into a journal? For me, journal is not an option. I don't journal. I don't write my things on. Anything that I have to put my glasses on to do is a struggle for me. Whereas I imagine being a writer, for you, journaling might be a good thing. That might be one of those coping skills. So for individuals that are having these struggles, I can't say this is the best advice for you, because it is going to be something that you have to find for each individual and what works. We call it safety planning. Sometimes a safety plan is to call back and speak to somebody when you were having those dark thoughts, as she did for Lexie. Other times there's other things that you can do. If you don't mind me sharing, here at the Crisis Center, we answer a lot of different phone lines. I myself am a military veteran, and I answer our Florida Veteran Support line. Every veteran we speak to, we do screen, we do check, and I do ask those questions about suicide. But when we were first starting, the very first suicide call that I took was on the substance abuse hotline. We have a hotline when somebody's looking for different treatment facilities, detox, inpatient, depending on what they're looking for. It was a Coast Guard rescue swimmer. He lived in South Florida. He was calling originally to look for detox. He said he had just finished a bottle of vodka, and he knew he was struggling with some things and wanted to do it. As we talked, we built a rapport. Two different branches of the service, but we still have that brotherhood, as you ladies were talking about it being a sisterhood. With what it is, it's being that peer. And we would talk a little bit, and I found out that he had a lot of loss. He had recently lost his father to a disease. And then as we discussed more, the reason he was drinking, his girlfriend just upped and moved to Alaska to be a marine biologist. So he lost this important factor in his life. And we discussed a couple other things. We discussed how, as a rescue swimmer, they got to save lives. And then he mentions, but they don't tell you how to cope with the ones you don't get to save. And we don't think about that sometimes we're not able to save everybody. Then the other factors came out of the discussion. I found out he had attempted before. He had took an empty tank and weighted himself down and tried to drown himself. He woke up in one of those chambers and so forth. So you had all these risk factors that had added up. And as we were talking more, and of course I flat out asked him, I says, are you thinking of taking your life? He says, I'm going to be honest with you, brother. And then he said he had the means sitting right next to him. He says, my plan was, after we got off the phone, I was going to do it. So we safety planned in the moment as we talked. Of course, you can't panic in that situation, because they hear that in your voice. They're calling because they are reaching out. And we safety planned, and we had him agreed to remove the lethal means and lock it up in the closet in the back bathroom. And then he was coming back and sitting down. We're talking he's on his cell phone the whole time. He agreed to pour the remainder of the vodka down the sink. And we sat and talked a little bit more. And sometimes you can work with a safety plan and do things that will help you, but he felt that he couldn't be safe. But he did agree to have intervention come out and have somebody check on him. And he asked for that. Back then, we didn't have some of the advantages in our system, so I didn't even have a way to communicate with a coworker to call for intervention, so I'm having to pass notes. Now, thankfully, we've got the different things like Skype and the means and stuff. But we were able to have them reach out to that county sheriff's office, and they came out to do a wellness check. And as we're talking, he says, okay, I see them pulling in. They're coming up the stairs. He told me, he says, brother, he says, I want to thank you. I says, I have to let you know you saved my life. And then disconnected. That was my first suicide call, and I hadn't been with the crisis center that long, but all the stuff, all the struggles, all the barriers that I dealt with prior to getting there that let me know at that one time in that moment, I was where I was supposed to be, that it made a difference in the life. When Velvet was reading her closing statements about that, we do have that opportunity where we are important in somebody's life, and it's up to us with our character on how we are doing that. So being able to recognize that and speak about it, that was the first step, because people are scared. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to say, I don't want to encourage them. But folks that are thinking about it, they have those thoughts, and many times those thoughts are passing. Once they get over that hump, they're good for safety for now, because 2 days later they may feel the same thing. So with advice and getting over, sometimes, April, you might want to look at some of the factors. You ladies discussed different factors that were all part of what was going on too. Sometimes a factor could be a mental health diagnosis. As you discussed, Shannon had bipolar disorder, but there are other mental health diagnoses that play a factor. Me dealing with the military, I deal a lot with PTSD. But we also deal with traumatic brain injury. You discussed how many concussions that she dealt with. These are all factors. And when you had mentioned that how people were saying, oh, we're shitty friends, we're not here. She made her choice. She had set those things up because in her mind, that was the only option. A thing I wanted to list right here, it was, stay here, was the biggest wall you've got to climb is the one you build in your own mind. And for folks that are dealing with mental health, that's in their mind. I think, Lexie, you had mentioned about the substance use and how when you start self-medicating, it affects the effectiveness of the medication you're on. Same works for even stuff like antibiotics. If you start to drink and start doing these other things, it's not effective and you're not able to get better. You're not able to regulate because it's not a cure-all, but it's to be regular and maintaining. You mentioned that she had this chronic pain. There are people that want to take their lives because they just want the pain to end. Sometimes it's not a physical pain. They just want the pain to end, and they look at this being the finality of this is the only way out. Many times you can work that, use those things to help with, but once their mind's made up, their mind's made up. It is still their choice, no matter how much we love somebody or how much we feel that, well, if I was there, things could have changed. We have to worry about making sure that we don't feel that guilt either, because she made that choice, which she thought was best for her.
And I think that's what really tears us up too is, there was a lot of people a lot of people on that live who were trying to talk her out of it. You know, everybody wanted to help, but it's hard to grasp that she had her mind made up, you know, because it's so tragic.
What is your opinion on the common saying when people say, "Oh, it's suicide is selfish"? Personally, I disagree with that. It's an easy way out. It's selfish. I don't think there's anything easy about making that decision.
I think as human beings, it is common for us to feel that way about somebody else doing that. You know a little bit about my story. When my father died by suicide, your reaction of anger was my very first reaction. I didn't know a lot about those different factors. I didn't know about all the different things going on. And then I got to the point I felt selfish, that he was being selfish. Um, he sent my sister and I an email with his note, and many things in his note mirrored everything that was going on with my life, with exception a couple details. And that's why I felt that is selfish. So I think that's a common reaction. And unfortunately, though, it is a valid reaction for some people to feel that way. Although, no, it's not selfish, because it was still her decision, what she thought was best for her. No matter how she got to that conclusion, what her mind said was best for her. Substance abuse is a big factor in a lot of suicides, because at that time their mind is not in a regular spot, so they think at that time. But you can't say what's selfish and what's not, because even though you disclose that you both have bipolar disorder, your experience is different from hers. Your life is different from hers. You may have some similarities, you have some shared experiences, but you can't feel what she was feeling. None of us can feel what she was feeling. We don't know the pain that she was in. We don't know the things that were going on. And as you said, now hopefully she's at peace because she's not in that pain anymore. Do I think suicide's an answer? Absolutely not, because it's final. You can't look for tomorrow with tomorrow coming. And that was the thing about having that hope, knowing that there is a tomorrow. You make that final decision and perform suicide, it's done. But it was still that individual's decision, because it had to be what was best for them. Now, she showed in her wishes that it wasn't just her being selfish. She wanted to make sure her animals were taken care of. She had plans for that. She wanted to have studies done to hopefully that could help people down the road in the future that were suffering from the same issues that she was suffering from. So that's not being selfish. That is trying to at least help. And even as you mentioned, during Suicide Prevention Week, the whole month is a Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Friday is World Suicide Prevention Day. And as Velvet said, it should be something that's every day. But if this helps get the word out for folks to recognize some of the factors and recognize some of the things that's going on. Depression's a big factor, and sometimes you're not diagnosed with depression. Robin Williams, who knew that this funny man who made people happy all the time was struggling with the depression that he was? We just passed the anniversary of his suicide just a couple weeks ago. That was a huge spotlight on what's going on.
People who smile the most are usually the ones that are dealing with the biggest struggles. So, yeah. Somebody just said that Daff gave away her car.
That is one of the risk things. I mean, I can read a couple things that are risk things or the signs. They don't always apply to everybody, but starting to give away some of your stuff, not selling it, just giving it away to different things are signs on there. You guys had already mentioned feeling like a burden. That's one of that, being isolated, feeling trapped or in unbearable pain, increased substance use. You guys have already covered. I mean, you know what's going on. We see that. Sometimes we don't see it because we're looking like this and don't see the things that are going on. Sometimes the extreme mood swings. I believe, Lexie, you touched on that on how she would talk to you at sometimes. Sometimes sleeping too little or sleeping too much. Well, there's nothing else to do today. I'll just lie here in bed and stay here. Even the post, listening to somebody's posts, and sometimes you see a lot of that. And then those making plans are starting to write your will out for things, starting to get rid of all your belongings and things like that. All of a sudden purchasing a firearm that maybe they didn't have a firearm before, or collecting it and saving it for later. These are all steps that if you don't address, so why do you have this firearm? Or you've never been a gun enthusiast, or why did you do this and do that? Some of these things are signs, but not everybody does it. I mean, if I went and purchased a 45, some people just wouldn't look at it as two things. I'm a Marine. Going to the gun range was some of my self-care, or at least one time was. But if some of the things are just what is out of the normal for the individual that you're concerned with.
Well, Jamie, can I ask you, because I talked to her quite often, and I knew she was struggling, but like I said, I could usually, maybe I was her safety net. In fact, she always said that, I was the one that could calm her down, but she was still making future plans. It was okay, well, next week when I do this, and so all of your points and your signs are good, but then when there's talking, she was, I got told yesterday that she was going to come down next month and surprise me. She had made plans with this other person to meet up, and they were going to drive down together and surprise me. That was next month. And she had something that she was going to do next week with somebody else. So she was still making
future plans,
plans, to get together with people. And then I also wanted to ask you, for those of us that are struggling with survivor's guilt, whatever you want to call it, are there would you suggest some books that we can read, or some passages? Because right now, and I'm going to cry again, but I'm going from just being really mad to sad to mad, and and I don't know what to do with all of this.
Well, first, be sad, be mad. Those are your valid feelings. Those are what you are feeling. Making plans for the future, unfortunately, doesn't always work out, and things like we said, we don't know how much pain that she was in. Robin Williams had just signed on to do his next movie that they were scheduling for. He was making plans too. So that's not always an anchor to hold somebody in. We use those sometimes when we are safety planning with a caller on the phone or somebody in person. We use the family. Hey, you wanted to see your daughter grow up to graduate and go to college. You wanted to be there for the cat and the dog. I didn't catch the names, but sometimes that's part of the safety plans, but sometimes it's not enough, because she still had to climb that biggest wall of what was made up in her mind. As for helping, there are some options. There's things, not everything works for, you can attend some sort of grief counseling. There are suicide survivor support groups. For those that are religious, they can speak to their clergy. And sometimes it's education, being able to learn more about mental health, learning more about suicide prevention. Sometimes it helps to that, because in the end, it helps you give back to help others.
Okay.
As I shared with April a minute ago, part of the reason I am here doing what I do is because I lost my father to suicide. He was a retired Air Force veteran. So I have the veteran factor in the family in there, but being able to help others and go forth has helped me work and overcome. I no longer feel the anger that I felt. I no longer feel that he was being selfish, because I'm beginning to learn there's more and more going on, because I don't know what was in his head. We don't know what was going on in Shannon's mind, but for her, that was what was said. I can't tell you where, because everybody's around the country, but you can contact just your local 211 information line. They're around the country, and they're based out of, many counties have their own, some share multiple counties. But if you're looking for grief counseling and suicide support groups, we have the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has a website where they can offer to connect it. I shared it earlier. Hopefully Colin can post that later. AFSP.org. That's a national program on there, and there's others that are out there and available. I know I reach out for a lot of my veterans for the VA, because they have suicide prevention programs in there. They have the Veterans Crisis Line as well. So there's stuff that's out there. It's just not something that we're aware that's available, because it's not something, again, that we talk about. We've been so brought up with that stigma that we shouldn't talk about it. But that's the first steps. When you know of somebody that may be at risk, there's 5 easy steps. The first one is to ask if that's what they're thinking. Second is to help keep them safe. I've had safety plans where I've spoken with a veteran who had a firearm that he's had his brother come and pick it up and lock it up for him and put it in his safe. You want to make sure that you're there for him. And Lexie, absolutely, you were there for Shannon. But you want to help them connect. I think I mentioned that earlier. Sometimes it is getting connected to the right thing. Sometimes you're not sure what the right thing is. And as Shannon had to go through with the different doctors and stuff to try to find the right thing. And then the last piece is follow up. That's one of the things that we do with all our callers, with us being person-centered. We recommend and ask them if they want us to follow up with them. So it's not, here's 2 aspirin, call me in the morning. We follow up with people. That's part of my job currently as a care coordinator with my veterans, is reaching out to these individuals and checking, seeing how their safety plan's working, if there's some struggles with them, things that are going on. There are a lot of other things that you could learn when we do educate ourselves. I do a thing that's called WRAP. It's called Wellness Recovery Action Plan. It was originally designed for folks that are struggling with mental health issues or substance abuse issues, but basically it's a safety plan. And the best time to do a safety plan when things are well. Well, Lauren, you'll understand this. April, you'll understand this. We're living in Florida at the time. Hurricanes. You don't
prepare for them before the hurricane season.
Exactly. You don't run and buy all the water and all the batteries and stuff when the hurricane's 2 days away. You plan in advance and stock up and have these things in place. So this wellness recovery action plan, it's just an action plan. You have the things in place. You recognize when things are getting bad. You have steps that you would take. What is a go-to for you? Sometimes those go-tos don't help. Sometimes you're even overwhelmed with the normal bread and butter, so to speak, that you have those steps. And it's easier to look at that and read it than when you're in your crisis. You can't remember, I need to go here and do that. So being able to plan for these things and learning about that, that's something I work with a lot of callers and veterans specifically, is working on a safety plan. Sometimes it can not even be related to mental health or suicide or substance abuse. It's just a plan on how to get you back. If this last year and a half with the pandemic has not taught us anything, that we're out of our element on a lot of things. We have people that are in positions that have never been in this position before. I used to be one of those, being a jarhead. I was very judgmental. Coming from that environment especially with TSA, you're guilty until we clear you. I had that mentality and had to learn a lot of different things. But going in this environment, if I had somebody that didn't pay their electric and their electric was shut off, but they were working, it's like, wait a minute, why is this off? What'd you spend your money on? I was judgmental, not realizing pandemic especially. I may talk to a veteran, family of 4, maybe even retired. He makes X amount of dollars, but the money that's come in, the other income, it's all a part of their budget. And with all the other things going on, they didn't have access to work. And now all of a sudden, all these bills are piling up. They're being threatened to have their electric shut off. They're having and they've never been in this situation before. And as a guy, we got egos, and not being able to help our family, not being able to put food on the table, that puts us in a crisis. And when you've got somebody that for the last 20 years has budgeted, he shouldn't be in this position, but something beyond his control put him down there. It was weighing on him. And that was some of the struggles that we would have to talk to. You call me because you need help with your rent, but I'm talking to you a little bit more about the deeper rooted problems. I'm listening to the invitations in your voice. I'm hearing you struggle to talk and even ask for help. As veterans, we're taught to be self-sufficient. We don't ask for help. Something's wrong with us. We must be broken. But people in general, a lot of times don't ask for help because we don't want people to look at us that way. So because we're just now overwhelmed with so much going on, that's why it's more important that we are as supportive as we are to individuals. And I think it was Velvet that said it, not just the people but how Shannon was reaching out to everybody. It wasn't just you, Lexie, when she was saying here, she was checking on everybody, because you realized, hey, that might be the thing that day, that contact, that human connection might be the things that makes safety for them that day.
Jamie, can I ask you a question?
That's one in itself, but we'll give you more than one.
Okay. That is true. When people feel like a burden, or like reaching out would be a burden, how do you help them to not feel like a burden, or to know that they're not being a burden or annoying anybody by trying to reach out?
It's hard. I can tell you what not to say. Don't go snap out of it. It's just this and just that, because their feelings are, again,
no, I mean those people. So those people, not me as somebody listening to somebody who needs to talk, but the person who actually feels like a burden. How can they be helped to not feel like a burden?
Well, one, as for us, is to make sure we're letting them know we're there. We're still following up with them as our individual personal relationships that we have with people. They're still going to feel that at times.
I can tell you straight up that you can say that a million times and we don't necessarily believe you.
I was going to say, because that's what I did that every single phone call with Daphne.
Yeah.
Every single phone call started
bipolar. We see things differently. We hear things differently. We're super, super sensitive to people's body language and being.
It's the biggest wall that you have to climb.
So how can that be?
It really is.
Honestly, that would be the cure.
The reason, I think one of the reasons Daphne reached out and helped so many people is because it helped her alleviate the fact that maybe it helped her alleviate feeling like she was a burden on other people. Yeah. It's the same reason I do it. So I try and help so many people because it helps me feel better about the times that I've been such a burden on others. It's kind of like a karmic currency, if that makes sense. So.
Well, I can say firsthand, helping others helps my own well-being. Being able to do what I do has helped me on my struggles, both in the physical and mental side. Let's face it, I've seen some shit. I've been through some shit. Each and every one of us have gone through stuff. In each and every one of us, what we've gone through is different than the other, but it's our own stuff that we are working through and carrying with. And being able to help others helps me. I know many times I'll get somebody, whether it's on Facebook or whatever, that'll say, I can't do what you do. That's because it's not for everybody. And it is a limited shelf life. You're dealing with people's vicarious traumas. You're dealing with all this stuff, and you only have so much empathy that you can do before it's absorbed. So it's not something, but you can find something else that works. Just like we were talking about coping skills. Journaling ain't for me, but it is for somebody else. So knowing an individual, as well as, say, Lexie, you knew Shannon, and you knew there were times that you were talking to that brick wall that you're not going to convince the person to change their mind, but you were still there. And we all know she knew that you were still there for her. And that is a big thing, that even if they're not on a conscious level realizing that, on a subconscious level, they realize that. And being there, talking about it, letting them know that you're available, gives them that opportunity when they do make that mind up to make that decision. You know what? Let me go ahead and try. Let me go ahead and talk to. That helps, but it's still sometimes a brick wall. I mean, you guys know April, how long, how hard-headed is she?
I'm going to say something, and it might not be the most refreshing thing to say, but I know Lexie and Shannon had kind of a rapport where when Shannon got to that point, they had an agreement that she was supposed to reach out to Lexie. Am I correct on this?
Yeah.
And this is the only time that she's failed, right?
I'm having a lot to. Yeah.
I think that shows you that she made her decision and she was ready to go. And she was doing it on her own terms. And even if you had reached her, if any of us had reached her, because we all tried, whether it was through the live or calling or texting, everybody tried. We all tried in some way, shape, or form. Pretty much everybody here tried. All the fans, they tried. Everybody tried. There was nothing we could have done. She made her decision. Just like she made her decision to get in the wrestling business, she made her decision to dye her hair green. She made her decision to cut it off and give it to people. She made her decision to move to Tampa or to move to Atlanta. She makes her decisions. She always has, and she did it this time.
This one's just the hardest to accept.
It is.
Ladies, let me piggyback on that. However you got into the business, you had to do a lot of physical training. You had a lot of things going on. I went through Marine Corps boot camp on our physical training, on the things that we did. You got to a point with physical training on whatever you were being put through, if it was drills or certain exercises, whatever, that your body just finally gave out. You had nothing left. We get to that point. She was at that point that she had nothing left, even though she made a contract with you, Lexie, which we don't like doing contracts with people because contracts get broken throughout life. But at least she made that pledge to start with. It was something to focus on. We do a thing in the military we call the Spartan Pledge, that if we're feeling bad, that we call one of our brothers on that. But even that, when you are done, you're absolutely finished. You're done. No matter how much willpower you have, if you physically can't get back up because it's done, you physically can't begin. She was done. And she made that decision because she thought that that was the best for her with what she was going through. It didn't mean that she didn't love you any less. It didn't mean that she felt like she probably was letting you down knowing that. But it was at a point that she could not do any more, any longer, and had to make that decision. I can tell you 100 times you shouldn't feel guilty, but that's just, again, those are still your feelings, and that's something that you'll have to work and realize. But I really hate using the words respect her decision,
That's
because
hard.
I don't agree with that decision myself,
Yeah.
but it was still her decision. Just like it was your decision to love her. Just like it was her decision
Oh no, we
to
had no
have
choice
each
with
and
that.
every that, yeah. Each and every one of you were in her lives for a reason, and each and every one of you have been impacted. So what are you going to do with it now?
Yeah.
Well, I think we have probably come nearly to the end of our time limit here, but I think everybody should definitely feel their feelings instead of kind of, doing what we do and staying. Sometimes we get busy and we try and squash them down. They come back later to haunt us. I think we should do what we can to connect with others. It does help, especially with others who have been in the same situation. Um, I never really believed much in like things like Al-Anon or things like that. And I went, I would, my father drank, my ex drank. I finally went to an Al-Anon. I was just like, what are they going to do for me? It was really helpful to sit around with people who had been through the same thing I've been through and listen to their stories and feel normal and understand that what I was feeling was normal and see people that were further along in the healing process and learn how they had gotten there. It's more helpful than you'd think, even though it's really weird to walk into a room full of strangers or to talk to somebody you don't know and tell them some of the most personal shit. Sometimes it's better that way because you don't know them. But Lexie, I just want you to know that you're fucking awesome.
You literally are everybody's wrestling mom. Like
You
what
are.
you've done for everybody is immeasurable. It truly is.
Yeah.
I've always known what you've done for Shannon. I've always known what you've done for all of us, and I think you're an amazing human being.
Thank you.
Angel, thanks for coming on here and
Thank you for
asking
having
all the
me.
right questions and telling all your story. Talia, if you listen to this later, you're just an amazing human being. Thank you for leaving off the way you did. Jamie, thank you for bringing all this knowledge to us and kind of explaining things from
Yeah,
a
thank
level
you.
that we don't
Yeah, thank you, Jamie.
get it. You know what I mean? It was very valuable. Thank you. And to you fans out there, I don't know if any of this was helpful for you, but I hope it was because I know a lot of you have been impacted nearly as much as we have. Like it was said before, she loved you guys. You meant a lot to her. So thank you for being a part of this tonight, you guys, the fans watching. If you're watching this on a replay later on, we appreciate it. Thank you to those of you who wrote in, like Shanti and just sorry, just thank you very much. And I want people who don't normally watch us to know that we do something. It's a little different all the time. We do something like this every week, not normally as somber or serious, but we do something every week on the A Show at 7:30 on Twitch TV, the A Show. And usually my co-host is Aron Stevens. And you can kind of expect the unexpected with us. We do everything from having on psychic mediums to detectives and talking about some true crime to debunking. Huh?
To wearing togas.
To wearing, yeah, we do cosplay shows to to debunking conspiracy theories to having an expert dream analyst on. So we kind of keep it fun, and you can watch us every Tuesday night at 7:30 live, and you can catch us on Patreon, the A Show. And thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you. We have hosting bills to pay. We appreciate you. We love your money. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who joined us tonight. And we are very happy to have you here. So it's been cathartic for me. So thank you.
April, can I add one last thing?
Please
This is
do.
for everybody listening. talking about suicide's tough, but for those that are thinking themselves, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-TALK or 8255. It is a national line no matter where part of the country that you're in. If you need to talk to somebody, it's there and available.
Cool. Very cool. Thank you. This is all useful stuff. All right. Well, thank you very, very much. And we will sign out and hopefully see some of you guys again next week and feel your feelings and try and connect with each other and carry on Shannon's legacy. Bring the light to the world. Be the lightness. Be the light. Be the smile. All right. Thanks, you guys. Thank you for watching the
Thank
show.
you.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.